All right, that's Soul Scratch with Pacified on FM 88.3 WHCM, Harper College Radio. One of our featured artists this week coming from the record label Coal Mine Records out of Loveland, Ohio. They sent us a lot of good stuff this week, and we'll be featuring some of the music on the show today. Welcome to the second edition of Harper Talks. Today I have, this is Brian Shelton here, and my guest is Laura Puleo. Is it Colbert or Colbert?
It is Colbert, like the Irish people.
Colbert, like the Irish
right
people.
Way, like the Irish people.
I bet that's been a problem ever since Stephen Colbert has become very
absolutely,
popular.
Absolutely. I mean, we were Colberts up until that point. And of course, you know, he really goes by Colbert.
Right.
Colbert was a foe. So, yes, now we're Colberts. Now we're like Claudette Colbert.
Ooh, Claudette
Very
Colbert.
fabulous.
One of my favorites. Yeah, absolutely. So how you doing today, Laura?
I am fine, Brian. How are you? I'm usually not up and here quite this early in the morning. The theater program runs late into the evening, so this is an early morning rise for me.
All right. Well, we're here to talk about the theater program and talk about your long and sordid history with it. And I was thinking back to when we first met, and if I recall correctly, you went to school at Harper, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I'm a graduate of Harper. I grew up in Schaumburg and went K through 12 out in Schaumburg, so I'm very familiar with the community because I lived in it. And I came to Harper and finished my associate's degree and went on to eventually finish up at the National Theater Conservatory, and then found myself back in Chicago and ran into Mary Jo Willis, who was my first acting teacher
Right.
and mentor and friend. And she hired me as an adjunct faculty member, and then that just built, and here I am.
Now, tell me, now, this is a common thing I've noticed in the community colleges that I've worked at. A lot, you find a lot of former students from community colleges working at their community college.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with the fact that we know the purpose of a community college and we believe in it. I mean, it's, you know, I learned to love learning here.
Right.
I didn't learn that at Schaumburg High School. God bless you all at Schaumburg High School. But I didn't necessarily learn that I learned that here. And so it's sort of fitting that I should wind up back here passing that on to people who come from the same place that I came from. I think when you go to a community college, you have a different perspective, and so I'm not surprised that a lot of our faculty are community college graduates. It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and I think it's great to put a priority on that too when you're looking at hiring, to look at
Yeah.
people who to understand the community college and maybe went to one as well. So,
Right.
So hey, you know, so not to put a date on anything for you there, Laura, but way back when,
Yes,
when you
yes.
were a student here, the PAC was not built. So
No.
where did you guys perform?
Oh my gosh, we performed in J Building in
Ooh, in the J Theater?
J143. Yes.
Oh.
The acting classroom was in the basement of A Building,
Okay.
right next to the cafeteria. It's where I think where the testing area is now.
Okay.
So everything that we owned, our costumes, our props, Mary Jo's office, and the acting classroom were all shoved into this corner. And we worked out of, before J Theater came on board, she worked, and there was a little television studio that was in F Building.
Okay.
And so she did a couple of small gigs in there. And then when J came on, we worked out of J, which was difficult because there's no backstage in J.
Right.
So we would go outside in the middle of winter in our Fiddler on the Roof costumes and run around to make entrances and exits. And it was difficult. It was tough.
I imagine. So thinking back to then, what was your favorite show that you did as a student here at Harper?
Well, it was Pippin.
Okay.
And it was, I just finished directing Pippin.
Right, and I saw that show. That was great.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was really a treat for me to direct it and come full circle that way. Pippin really sort of opened the door for my career. But, I also met my husband on stage here at Harper when I was 19 years old. We played husband and wife in Chapter 2 by Neil Simon. So I kind of dig that one, too.
Yeah, I bet you do. I
Yeah.
bet you do. So let's talk about what is going on here at Harper today with theater. You teach theater, you teach speech, you teach acting, and a number of other courses in that area in the Communication Arts Department. And you are now the director of theater, a role that you had previously, I think, 2002 or so? Yeah.
To 2010, right.
2010. So tell us, what exactly does the director of theater do?
The director of theater is responsible for all aspects of the theater program, and that's both curricular and extracurricular. So the director of theater helps to sort of organize classes, but in addition to that, they help to select the theater season, and they produce all of the shows that happen here on campus. So I just directed Pippin, but we have 2 upcoming productions, Picnic, which goes up in March, and Doubt, which goes up in April. And while I'm not directing those 2 productions, I'm producing those 2 productions.
Okay.
So every aspect from the hiring of independent contractors to sustaining royalties and rights, rehearsal spaces, I'm the money gal.
Yeah.
It's someone else's money, but I just tell you where it goes.
So a good question about that, though. So I think a lot of people get confused with what a producer does. So from that aspect, I mean, it is a management job and it is a money job, but do you consider it a creative job as well?
Absolutely, because I always really let the individual director take the lead in terms of what they hope to achieve with the show. But I'm responsible for hiring a really good creative team, which includes a lighting designer, a scenic designer, a costume designer, along with the director. You know, in the case of Picnic, the director, the scenic designer, the lighting designer, these are all independent contractor positions. So I'm responsible for bringing that crew together. And then I sort of oversee and help that director to reach the visions that he wants to reach with the production.
Okay.
I help the scenic designer to accomplish his goal. I help the costume designer to accomplish their goal. So in addition to sort of organizing the finances, I'm there to encourage and support their vision individually. And then when I'm directing, I'm doing that for myself in a sense because I'm the one directing, and really the director takes the lead in theater productions.
Right. So let's talk about, I was fortunate to see Pippin in the last season, and that show was a spectacle. Now, you performed in that show, as we know, when you were a student here. It was one of your favorite shows. Talk to me and to our audience about, I mean, what is it like managing all of that mess of people, the singing and the dancing?
You know, that's the toughest part, and
Yeah.
I must be insane. And I think this goes back to the fact that I am a musical theater performer.
Right.
And regardless of where I've gone and where I've studied, and I've studied at some pretty amazing places, from the Moscow Art Theater to the Royal National of Great Britain, and I've studied with some amazing teachers. But for some reason, I always come back to musical theater. And even though it's the most difficult because there's so many different aspects to put together, there's something in my soul that just makes it right for me. And it's where I do my best work. It's tough to have to be responsible for that big picture visually.
Right.
As an actor, and that's where my background is and that's where I come from, I was responsible for myself. And I put myself where I needed to be on stage. Man, making that transition from acting to directing that I made some 15, 20 years ago was one of the toughest things that I've had to do. And I still miss the independence of that acting position because I'm so responsible. It's really tough. It's about coordinating, a music director, an orchestra, a choreographer, a scenic designer, a lighting designer, a costume designer. And to be honest with you, I'm a very organic director. I was an organic actor. I understand the importance of putting pen to paper when it comes to understanding background and history of character or genre. But I work from gut instinct. And I go through each piece of music and I get these visual pictures in my brain. And then I get those visual pictures to come to life through manipulation of the actors, through manipulation of the lighting, the scenic design, whatever it might be. So that's how I work.
Yeah.
I am not someone that sits down and plans everything out in advance. There are some people that do that. That's not my thing. I trust my actors and my designers to come together as an ensemble, to work together. And that comes from my training as an actor as well. I understand the importance of ensemble and that there's really no role for stars in theater. It's about a group effort. So I'm only as good as the people who stand next to me.
Right, which is a great thing for people to realize. And I think that a lot of people, if you don't realize that it's a team effort, then you're not going anywhere. So.
Well, and I think a lot of kids, get into this because they see film and television. They see movies and they see movie stars. And they go, ooh, movie star, cool, I want to do that.
Right.
And theater is a bit different because it's a different dynamic. It's not about the individual, it's about the group.
Yeah. All right. We are going to take a real quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about your upcoming show, Picnic, and your new director, who's going to be directing for us this year, and the other upcoming show, Doubt, which is going to be off campus, I understand. So I'm interested in learning about that. We'll be right back with Laura Pulio Colbert.
Thank you.
On FM 88.3 WHCM Harper College Radio. right, that's Jungle Fire from Coal Mine Records here on FM 88.3 WHCM, Harper College Radio. You're listening to Harper Talks. I'm Brian Shelton. Today, my guest is Laura Pulio Colbert. Just real quick here, the weather for today, we are looking at a high of 47 right now. It is 45 outside, which is absolutely insane for February, right, Laura?
Lord, it certainly is.
Yeah, and as we look through the week, though, it does get cold again. So Wednesday, 29, Thursday, 22, but then Friday, things warm back up, 47, and Saturday, 47. So maybe some time to get outside and have a little fun.
I went out this weekend and took a walk. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I went out to take a nice ride, and I had just done some work on my bike, and I was having a really hard time riding and couldn't figure out why I was struggling so much. And I got off the bike and looked, and I realized that my brakes were engaged. So the whole time I'm trying to ride the bike, I've got the brakes on, which is, dumb on a level that's, yeah. So, all right. So, Laura, tell me about the next show coming up. It's called Picnic, and you've got a new director in.
Yes. Picnic was written in 1953 by William Ing, or Inge, depending on how you choose to pronounce it.
Right.
And it's it was a mid-century modern piece. I like to call it in the 50s. And it's about a small town in Kansas City and this this beautiful man that comes into this town and engages everyone, including two sisters who are sort of struggling and looking for where they fit in small town America at a time when small town America was sort of transitioning. So it's a nostalgic piece.
Right.
It's a really nostalgic piece, and it's a beautiful piece. And it's a Pulitzer Prize winner. And we have Cale Harper, who's an adjunct faculty member here at Harper, directing this one. And Cale is also a Harper graduate.
Oh, great.
He was one of my first acting students and finished up and went on to the Oslo Conservatory in Florida to get his MFA with an emphasis in acting. So Cale is back again. And, it's ironic how this works, but a lot of us find ourselves back where we started, and he's working with our acting students now and teaching acting and additionally directing the show. So I'm thrilled to have him back. He has a level of professionalism and an understanding of the craft that is really important for our students to have the opportunity to learn.
Okay, so when's the show run?
The show runs March 10th, 11th, 12th, 17th, 18, and 19. It runs 2 weekends.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is in our Performing Arts Center here on campus. And the Friday and Saturday performances are at 8 o'clock, and the Sundays are at 2 p.m.
Okay. How big is the cast for this show?
This one, if I remember correctly, has around 12 or 13.
Okay.
And our shows, and another thing that's sort of unique about our program and the community college aspect of it is that we use our students, many of our traditional students, and then we also are open to community actors. So actors from the community who are interested in participating are welcome and encouraged to audition as well. So we have a nice variety in terms of our traditional students and some, working semi-pros who really bring something to our students in terms of the learning process. It's engaging for them.
What a great opportunity to be able to work with some of these folks. Yeah. I think that getting the different perspective from other actors, other directors, other people working in the field makes a huge difference for students, so they're not isolated.
That's how conservatory training is.
Right.
When I went to school, all of my teachers were actors in the company, directors in the company, so I was working with them and they were working professionally. I could go and see their work, and it was really engaging. So I like that.
Yeah, that's great.
More learning.
Yeah, more learning. Yeah. So you've got Picnic, which was also made into a movie, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I think it was William Holden, unless I'm losing my marbles, who was in this one.
I've seen it. It's probably about 20 years ago, though. So
yeah,
I've seen
it was. I think it was probably made in the late 50s.
Yeah. I know Haskell Wexler was the cinematographer. I don't know why that sticks in my mind, but that's all I know. So the next show coming up is directed by our other theater faculty.
Yes.
And it is called Doubt. Now, is this Doubt the Philip Seymour Hoffman film that I saw recently?
Yes, it
okay,
is.
So tell us about this production.
Doubt is an interesting show. First of all, it's written by John Patrick Shanley, so it's a more contemporary piece. And Doubt is really about it's about a nun who is the head of a school and is very conservative in terms of her values and her perspective, and a young priest who comes into the church and sort of stirs things up. And it's a fight, She is threatened by his unique, fresh perspective, and there's allegations that are made against him. And so the play is really about understanding, and where do you draw the line between suspicion and doubt and certainty. So there's a lot of questions in this one. And this one is directed by Kevin Long, who is another one of our faculty members here in the theater program.
Okay. And now this is unique. You're doing this production at a church?
Yes, actually, this is sort of was an exciting idea. Kevin came up with the idea of doing this in a found space, and we don't get the opportunity to do this very often.
Right.
But right across the street is St. John's Episcopal Church.
Right.
And so he had made contact with them, and we've made arrangements, and we're able to rent this space and work it out. So that this production will be April 21, 22, 23, 28, 29, and 30. And this will happen across the street at St. John's Episcopal Church. It will actually be done in the church. So it's sort of an interesting little theater experiment with a found space.
Yeah, that's okay. So as an audience member, I'm kind of excited about that. I think that's going to be really neat. But I would think that from a production standpoint, that might be a little terrifying. Is that?
It's the size of the space is very similar to our drama lab, and our drama lab is our small experimental black box space, which seats anywhere from 80 to 120 people, depending on how you arrange the seats. As an actor, I can tell you that I always preferred working in these small spaces. I love the audience up my nose. I want them in my face.
I always like that as an audience member when the production is designed so that the audience is basically almost on stage with the actors, and that's
something,
so cool.
And you'll notice that in my productions. It's a tenet of what I do, is I wrap my production. I wrap my audience around, or my production around my audience.
Right.
And so this idea of working in the small space, I dig it as an actor because I just love that close proximity. And it limits the picture that you have to paint visually.
Sure.
It makes it much more natural. And so I think it's sort of a groovy idea. Now, there's some things that you don't have in a church. You don't have access to lighting, and you're using the church space as your scenic backdrop and design. And sound changes. In this instance, Kevin happens to be a pianist, so he's going to be playing the organ as music through this process.
Oh, neat.
So it's very different, and we haven't had an opportunity to do found space pieces very often, so I thought it worked beautifully for Doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have to admit, my first 2 years here at Harper, I didn't see any shows. I feel bad. I know. And now I've seen 2 shows in the PAC, and I have to say that, sometimes when you use the word community theater, people have a certain idea of what that might be.
Right.
But these shows are pretty amazing.
I think so.
And I'm not just blowing smoke here. I think that these shows are very, very impressive. And I'm kind of curious what the audience is like for you. Like, how is attendance? What can we do to bring more people to see this wonderful spectacle that you and your colleagues are putting on?
Yeah, we've always been lucky in that we've been able to sustain ourselves. We generally run 2 to 3 shows a year, so sometimes 4, between the Performing Arts Center and the Drama Lab. And, our ticket sales are ridiculously reasonable. I can't tell you how many students I have that spend $120, for a show downtown.
Sure.
And then come and see a production of Pippin here and go, oh my God, that was wonderful, and I just paid $12 to see it.
Right.
So in terms of the cost, you can't beat it. Our program here, I think, has been taught and run. The tradition of the program, we have a tradition of excellence in the work that we do. I think it has a lot to do with the directors that we hire, the professionalism that they have. But again, more importantly, we have been lucky enough I have been lucky enough to work with some just remarkable artists. We've got Andrew Meyer who's the lighting designer for the Northwestern University Opera Program. He works with me regularly. I've got Paul Dombrowski, who's been doing this now for 25 years. We actually met in Pippin as 19-year-olds all those years ago. Is an art teacher in the Palatine School District, and just an amazing visual artist. And so, bringing these kinds of professionals in, the idea that we're lucky enough to have them here working with us, and that they're willing to give a lot of time in a situation where, they don't make a lot of money to do this.
Sure.
So, it's just, it's a really professional show, and that's performances that we do here, and that's what I get from most audiences.
Right.
I walk out in the lobby and they say, "Oh my goodness, I had no idea," and then they come back.
Yeah.
And the same thing is true of students. You know what? I give them the extra credit to start. Come see the show. I'll give you extra credit. You know what, Brian? 10 years later, 15 years later, 20 years later, I'm seeing those same students that took me up on that extra credit, who came and experienced theater for the first time at Harper College. If you want somewhere comfortable to do it, you want to go with, have a date night, bring someone out to dinner, come see a good show. It's a cheap date, man, and it's good work. We do good work. I'm proud of it.
Yeah, I also think it's a good opportunity to introduce your child, your younger children at home to theater, because, going to Chicago and spending $100 on your kid to go see a theater show, and they're like, "Man, this sucks. I want to go home," or you have to walk out because they throw a fit.
And my kids are a great example of that too. I've got a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, and they have grown up kind of watching and engaging. My husband's a performer as well, and both of my kids have, come on Saturdays and sat and watched rehearsals and have helped build sets. And they are both artistic little critters now.
Yeah.
And so it is a great way. And I see fellow faculty, too, who bring their kids to my shows and have been since they were little tiny people.
Yeah.
When appropriate. All of our work isn't necessarily appropriate for little tiny people.
Sure.
But it's a great way to get kids, like you said, interested in participating in theater.
Yeah. So I didn't ask you about this before the show, so I don't even know where you are on this. But the big talk this year in the land of movies and musicals is La La Land. And I'm curious, you haven't even seen it yet, have you?
I haven't seen it yet, but I've got to tell you, the most interesting thing that I'm finding from all of this is that I know a lot of people in the theater community, and my theater community friends are up in arms. They are not digging it.
Yeah.
Where for the lay person watching a movie musical, they are digging the heck out of it. So go figure.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
Well, I think that now I saw it and I was not a fan. I didn't dislike it, but I was not a fan. I don't see what all the hype is about. But I do think that for those who enjoy the theater and those who enjoy musicals, that when a popular show like that happens, and the masses of the American film-going audience are looking at musicals like that, I think it's good overall, because they see a show like that and they're like, "Oh, well, maybe I'll go see a live show. That might be fun."
Right. And I do think, for me, because I'm a musical theater performer, I'm always excited when I see people engage in any way in the process. And if it's on film, that's super cool, and I'm glad it's happening, because like you said, I think it opens up their minds to accepting things they might not normally go participate in.
Yeah. Anything you're looking forward to seeing? Anything you're trying to get to?
In terms of films right now?
No, in theater, well, film as well. But
this Evan Hansen is the big word on Broadway right now. Everyone's talking about that. I've got to get back to New York. Maybe I'll go this summer. It's been a couple of years since I've been there. And had like a theater weekend. I love those long theater weekends.
Yeah. I saw The Color Purple in December on Broadway, and I wept like a little baby 4 or 5 times.
Yeah,
so.
that's a beautiful show too. So, and there's just something about going to New York and seeing a Broadway play. Although, talk about $1, man.
Oh yeah,
holy smokes, is that expensive?
Thank goodness for the TKTS booth. So.
Yeah, and that's why you have to come and see shows at Harper College, because it's much less than Broadway.
That's right. Well, I want to thank you, Laura Pulio-Colbert, for being on our show today and telling us everything about that's going on here at Harper College and telling us about you. We thank you for having your time here with us today. I can't talk anymore. I'm done.
Thanks,
I'm
Brian.
done.
It was fun. Thank you, sir.
All right, so we are going to close out here right now with Laura. We're going to listen to a little bit more music from Coal Mine Records, and this track is called Hard Steppin'. Palatine, Illinois, a broadcast.